Hey guys, so I have questions, and maybe they're a little bit related to each other. They're both about pool, nothing else. Because these are kind of like physics-y questions, and I'm not a physicist. And Dr. Dave hasn't accepted my friend request on Facebook. I would just ask him. Got to thinking about this stuff. The other night when I was messing with a straight back, and I'll get to that in a second. I just first have to make this 11. Because that 11 is one of those banks you're never supposed to miss. And yet there I went. And I missed again. So there's something wrong with that 11. That's fine. So the other night, I was messing with this shot. Pretty shallow cut, but trying to get as much spin on this 10 as I could with center ball. And as I talked about, I very, very rarely make this bank back here without putting a lot of right English on it. If I put the ball out here, I have a much better success rate with it. Just brought up another point about these questions I have, is I'm not accurate to really demonstrate anything. I'm not accurate enough to do it. And Dennis is out of the country. I'm sure he would just jump right on it. One of the questions asked of me the other day was, I was shooting a shot with center ball and basically just trying to miss this point. Trying to get as close to here, close to the pocket as I could without hitting it. Reasoning that I wouldn't need as much spin on the 10 to bring it back to the pocket. I think that was correct reasoning. The problem that I was having was that this shallow angle wasn't putting enough spin on the 10 at all to begin with. It was kind of doing like that, just nothing. Well, the question asking me was, or the suggestion was, well, cut it more. And I was like, yeah, good idea. So, the suggestion was basically, don't shoot the algae ball here, shoot it like here. Cut it more. By cutting it more, I need more spin on the 10 to get it to come back here. But by cutting it more, I'm putting more spin on the 10. Am I putting more spin on the 10 than the more spin than I would need? Don't know, and I don't think I phrased that very well. But that was the question that was asking me, was the two balls in the same starting position, but this time I just cut it more. Am I going to get more spin on that 10 ball by cutting it more? And I am. I didn't hit that one very well. Again, I'm just not accurate enough to really be scientific about this and not bore everybody to death. I don't know the answer to the question though of if I get more spin on this 10 ball by cutting it more, does that make up for the fact that now all of a sudden I need more spin on that 10 ball to get it to come back? So this is just one of my many questions that I have. I have a lot of questions. These balls are probably way too clean for a lot of this type of stuff. But you never know. So these are my questions for Dr. Dave, if he ever friends me. I think that I know about contact-induced throw and contact-induced spin and a lot of those kind of terms, you know. And the question I have is, of course I have to try to explain it. And again, I'm not accurate enough to shoot this shit. If I have a sliding cue ball come into this 10, and I hit this 10 directly opposite that 9, If there was no such thing as contact-induced throw, then what would happen when I did this? Say I polished the balls up with arm roll or something, and I completely eliminated that kind of friction. There's no friction throwing the tin. There's no friction making the tin spin. The only force is pushing that tin that way. If this was the case in some magical land where there's no such thing as contact-induced throw or spin, that tin's going to go straight down the table, and if the cue ball was sliding at contact, it's going to go on that tangent line. It's going to go 90 degrees from the direction the tin just went. This is, I don't want to say it's basic stuff, but it's stuff that you learn. If you're a pool nerd like me, you learn it over the years and you read it and you verify it all snap. But because contact-induced spin and contact-induced throw, in this case, do exist, that tin's not going to go straight down there. It's going to get thrown this way, just a little bit, by the act of the cue ball coming across it. It's going to get thrown on this table probably like 2 inches this way. So my question is the cue ball, would the cue ball still do the exact same thing? Or, because that angle just got shifted a couple degrees, does the angle that the cue ball takes get shifted a couple degrees? Don't know if I can explain that very well or not. But what I was getting at was, in our magical world where there's no such thing as friction, basically, it's 90 degrees. The cue ball and the object ball are going to travel 90 degrees apart from each other. But where that type of friction does exist, that tin's now going, say, in this direction. Is the cue ball going to go 90 degrees off of this direction? Or is it going to continue on the same path that it was going to take originally? I'm not accurate enough to do any kind of testing to test this and verify it, or confirm or deny it, whatever. I'm just not. I have my opinions on what happens, but I don't know for a fact. And I like to ask somebody that a hell of a lot smarter than me about that type of stuff. So another question I have is almost the same thing. This time I'm not talking about contact-induced throw. I'm talking about contact-induced spin. If my cue ball comes in at a certain angle, it is going to make the tin spin, in this case, counterclockwise. Just a little bit, depending on the cleanliness of the balls and all that, it's going to make it spin a little bit counterclockwise. Does that affect that 90-degree angle I was just talking about? If I come in here with right English and I get enough spin on it, then that tin's going to get thrown that way a little bit by that spin. So is my cue ball then going to go 90 degrees off of this line and come up here a little bit more? Or is it going to stick with the same line it was going to be on originally? I'm assuming a sliding cue ball except for the spin in this case. I don't know the answer to this question. I would like to know the answer to this question. Not because it's going to put me in the Hall of Fame or whatever, because I like knowing shit like that. I like being able to figure out shit like that. But there's some things that are beyond my physical ability to figure out. And that's two of the examples right there. I could shoot, and probably get a pretty good idea of what is happening, but I could be wrong. Because I'm not a robot like fucking Dennis. So anyway, so those are two of the questions that I have for some physicist guy, or some of you armchair physicists can throw shit down in the comments if you want. I have something on my table, and it's probably something gross. And it looked like a bug part or something. So this is my other question, or I have one other question. Is that I know that if the cue ball comes in at the tin like this, it wants to throw the tin this way, assuming I'm hitting the tin directly in that direction. That's my contact point. It's going to throw the tin that way, and it's going to put a little bit of spin on that tin ball. a little bit of counterclockwise spin. I also know that there's a part of this cue ball that I can hit with the proper amount of speed and all that, where I can completely eliminate that 10 getting thrown to the right. In other words, I can hit this exact same spot of this 10, but if the cue ball is spinning, then I can make that 10 go straight down the table. In fact, that time I did, but pretend the 10 went straight down the table. I can do that. There is a spot and a speed and all that. Stroke timing is probably involved where I could do that. There's also a spot on the cue ball and a speed and a stroke timing and all that crap where I could keep the 10 from getting any contact and do spin. And my question is that the same point? Is it the same speed? Is that the same stroke timing and all that? Is it the exact same thing? I know it's the same force hitting this 10 that is either going to throw it or not, make it spin or not. What I don't know is if I eliminate the contact-induced throw with spin, have I also completely eliminated the contact-induced spin on the 10 ball with the same shot? Or are those points slightly different? Those speeds, stroke timing, all that crap, are they slightly different? I don't know the answer to these questions, and these are things I would like to know. Like I said, that is pretty much the reason I sent Dr. Dave a friend request, because I want to ask him this shit, but I don't want to get, I don't want to just come out of the blue and send him a message and go, oh, by the way, I have questions for you. Oh, it's really slight. It's cold down here. It's cold and dry down here. That's really making that ball slide a lot when it comes up that rail. Anyway, you guys didn't. Y'all didn't know I knew that shot, did you? Me neither. Yep, that's it. Bye, guys.